Well, I think the fact is, Hockey Canada has completely lost the confidence of Canadians. And the longer it takes to realize that, the more difficult it's going to be, not just for them, which is fine, but for kids in hockey, for juniors, for people who rely on that organization to play the sport they love and to have winter activities this winter. It is inconceivable that folks at Hockey Canada continue to dig in. It's not like there's something extraordinarily special about the people at Hockey Canada that means they are the only people in the country that can run an organization like this. There's lots of people who could run it, and unfortunately, the total loss of faith in that organization by everyone means that it's nonsensical that they be digging in their heels on this one. There needs to be wholesale change. They need to do it. They need to realize that if we have to create an organization, get rid of Hockey Canada and create an organization called Canada Hockey instead, people will look at doing that. There is a lack of understanding that they've lost the confidence of Canadians, and the sooner they get to that, the better it'll be for everyone.
Do you think we should start a new organization?
Listen, that's the federal government is in the business of starting those organizations, but if nobody is going to this organization, I'm sure there'll be a vacuum filled up.
All right, that was the Prime Minister speaking to reporters just moments ago before Cabinet meeting, and I think, Mike, the news there, the Prime Minister saying if we have to get rid of this organization, so be it. It's not like these people are special who run Hockey Canada. Others can do this job. They can take on this task. Again, using words like inconceivable and nonsensical. Do you want to add to that before we talk about the Minister of Sport?
I was just going to say, have we heard a politician be any more unequivocal about something like this? And forget any politician. The Prime Minister of Canada, I mean, if the message needs to be clearer, I don't know who it has to come from. Clearly, the members of the board are going to be hearing this. The Prime Minister couldn't say it any clearer. I mean, again, not suggesting that the federal government would be starting this new federation or this new body to govern Hockey Canada or hockey in this country, but certainly saying that there's nothing special about the people at the top, that it couldn't be done by somebody else, and saying that they need to continue to realize, or they need to finally realize that at some point. I haven't heard anything as unequivocal as that so far.
Well, people appreciate clarity, so there you have it. Let's talk about the Minister of Sport, because she has been calling on provincial and territorial federations to send a message to Hockey Canada. Before we heard from the Prime Minister, we were leading up to you with this very subject. Not all provinces are there quite yet, Mike.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and I think, we started the morning here talking about a number of those. So, the first one, Hockey Saskatchewan, not really giving any comment just yet. Hockey Nova Scotia saying that they're going to be having a meeting in the coming week to decide next steps. You had Hockey Quebec that, yes, said they're going to withhold that $3 registration fee per player from Hockey Canada, and then they also want a full audit of the money that they've already sent to Hockey Canada. And Hockey Ontario, the other larger and largest of the hockey federations in Canada, saying that they made the request back in the summer to outgoing, or then chair of the board of Hockey Canada, Michael Brindamore, and were assured that that would have been brought to the next board of directors meeting, but then he resigned, and so they're unclear on whether or not that was brought up. It seems like it wasn't brought up, so it looks like they're reissuing that request for Hockey Canada not to take the $3 registration fee per player from their federation. Whether or not it's an issue of them withholding or Hockey Canada having to send it back, that I think is something that is not very clear right now. So I think parents in Ontario are asking themselves that very question right now. Where did that money go? Is it coming back? And what is the mechanism that it'll take for us to get this back? And I think that requires a couple more questions to Hockey Ontario. But certainly there is a growing chorus of federations across this country that is asking themselves that very question. And I think now we are starting to see, with the political will that is being pushed out there and the political messaging that is being pushed out there, certainly this morning, that tone is being set by the Prime Minister. And maybe we're going to start to see more federations decide it is time to move away from Hockey Canada if Hockey Canada does not start to move away and make the change that is being requested of it.
All right, Mike LeCouture. Mike, thanks so much. We'll check in with you later as developments come in this morning.